Hey man, what's going on?
Hello.
Hey,
Good.
hey.
You?
Oh, pretty
What's
good.
going on?
Yeah, yeah,
Pretty good. Yeah. Lovely day here. Didn't
indeed.
go outside. I should have.
Oh, it's a beautiful day where I am, but
Well,
not
it's
as.
nighttime for me now.
That's true. That's true. It's early. Well, it's not early morning. It's like mid-afternoon for me, so that's normal for this area. But of
Time
course,
travel.
here we are. Yeah. Now, and mentioning time travel, welcome back to Bite My Shiny Metal Cast with episode 3, I Roommate. I
A
Roommate
Futurama,
of Futurama, obviously.
just in
Um,
case.
yeah, if you're new to the show, we take our time to kind of go through every episode of Futurama throughout its seasons, and of course, because we're both big fans of the show, we like to get into the nit and grit of everything and talk about bad, good, whatever. Usually, it's been good though.
Lots of tangents. Lots of tangents.
Totally.
Side things going off and something
Yes,
else,
we have to be careful of our
which
tangents.
is mostly caused by me. The wild card. Yes,
You're going on a tangent
I
right
labeled
now,
that. Yep. See,
literally
exactly. I
right now.
labeled it myself.
So we're gonna stop that. That's okay. Great. Let's get right
Fine.
into
Let me take a sip
yeah.
of water.
Yeah, go for it. Let's get right into our episode here. So yeah, I Roommate. Now, this is interesting, of course. So we're still in the first season, still early seasons. We're getting to know characters and understand motives and whatnot. This is again, we did not get a cold opening for this
Yeah,
episode. It goes right into the title card, and the title cards.
and there was no
Yeah,
there was nothing. There was
yeah.
no text at the bottom.
No, there is. There's one text. It's
It
the
was
as seen on TV. As seen on
really
TV.
okay because the one that I watched didn't have it.
That's the downside, I guess. Sometimes they remove it. No, it does say as seen on TV, so it's just like a fun little thing, I guess. They just decided to throw it in there. But yeah, we'll get right into it. So we open up our episode, start right off at the planet delivery company building,
Outside, right?
right?
Yeah,
And
with all
we're
the owls.
introduced. Yes, we're introduced to the idea of what is going on with this universe, or in this city at least, the
The future.
infestation of owls. So yeah, what are your opinions on this? I thought this was kind of just a hilarious
Well,
joke.
it's been a while since I read this or something like that, but just the idea I think behind it was that there were so many mice and rodents and stuff like that in New York City.
Yeah,
They're just like,
right.
we need to do something about this, so they got owls. And so there was like a childhood book or something about this, like, oh, you got this problem, well, just get the next thing. Oh wait, those things have become a problem.
Right, get a next
So
thing, right?
now
Yeah.
instead of having a rodent problem, they now have an owl problem.
Trouble.
So
Got
they
rid of
have
all the
all like these,
rats.
yeah,
Right.
they have owl traps and basically the
Oh,
same kind of thing you'd have for like rodent vermin, but the owl version.
yeah. No, it's hilarious that way. Oops. Um, yeah, the owls doing that. I think they said that they had to release the owls in order to get rid of the rats that pop up with all this shit,
Rats.
right? So,
Yeah.
anyway, we go into our whole thing, and of course, the reason that we start here is because Fry, being that his only relative, is the one that owns the company. He's able to live at the
Yes,
building, right?
because he came back. So he came there from the past to the future, and
Right,
hasn't found a place yet.
right, and hence
Which is
yeah,
the theme of
the
this
theme of this
episode.
episode, right?
I Robot, I
I,
Roommate.
I roommate, yeah, taken from, of course, the fun thing of iRobot, right? Now,
Yeah, which has to play with Bender. Yeah.
right. So Fry living in the office. This is a couple of funny things. So of course, he's sleeping on the table, and they're having a business meeting, and he's already late
And he's
for the
late.
business meeting, despite the fact that he's already there. Fun little gag. But this is also one of the first times we see in person, I guess, and I don't know how many times we see it because I don't recall. But the Bachelor Chow
I
is
love
actually
Bachelor Chow
brought
so
up. Yeah,
much.
it's kind of like a dog bag.
It's in a huge dog bag. You put it in a dog bowl, and
Yeah,
then you run it underwater to make it somewhat
just eat it. Yeah,
mushy, like with a bit of crunch in it. I
yeah,
would love to actually. It's savory cereal basically, is how I see it, and I
right,
would love for this to be an actual thing in real life, where it is marketed towards bachelors and everything. Because sadly as a bachelor myself, I would love to see if this would work for me. If I, like, oh yeah, just a quick meal, bachelor chow,
yeah,
in a dog bowl named my name Mitchell, and then nom nom nom.
right.
But I don't think savory cereal is. Oh, it's basically soup at that point, isn't it?
Well, it depends, right? Because if you put enough water in, I think you mix it and then you just kind of eat it. It's kind of like a paste.
So like
Um,
porridge.
right. Might be like kind of like a
There we go,
porridge,
savory porridge. There we go.
savory porridge. The thing is, though, it also says because later when we'll get to this afterwards, but when Fry
I
is
love it.
watching the show and he's
My-
watching
yeah.
the commercial, this is now with flavor. So it
Which I
made you
love
think it's like
that
some
too.
bland item that you just kind of eat. No, yeah, just
Yeah,
to fill
now with
you up, I
flavor,
guess.
I'm trying to
Yeah,
think. Like, it looks like stew, basically. It was
right.
how I would describe it,
Yeah,
like a beef stew.
right.
Um,
It's this
yeah,
brown colored, like paste looking stuff that's kind of porridgey, kind of stewy, and yeah, apparently it doesn't have any flavor. So it's just like the cheap stuff you could buy. Anybody who's anybody who knows that they don't have a lot
yeah.
of money, they could just eat this
Your
food.
basic market, the dog food is basically what I would say. Like, the ones that are just like the brown chunks. That's what
Right.
it looks like
Yeah.
in a bowl, but
Yeah.
for humans.
Basically saying all bachelors are dogs, right? This is basically the
Yeah,
call out to that.
yeah, yeah. I
So
love it.
yeah, Bachelor Chow, hilarious there. Now, of course, so Fry's been there for a few weeks. I think he's I think
I think it's
Well,
one month.
about a month, right? Because Hermes is having a meeting and he's describing the idea for this meeting is because there's been a
Water
a
consumption,
shot up of a lot of utilities, water, electricity, and he's noticed that there's more
food.
owls because of
Right,
the
because of Bachelor Chow, he leaves it all over the place. Yeah.
right. And
I'm sick and tired of cleaning the owl traps. Snap. Whoo!
That one makes me laugh. That one's great. Like I for one has been getting tired of cleaning those owl traps and just woo.
Whoo!
So, and of
Yeah, this is the
course,
first minute.
right,
I love it.
exactly. And here's Hermes as well, right? So I've noticed that Fry has been around for this long. So I've decided to make him the head of a committee to try and figure out why this is happening. And of course, it's all because
It's
of Fry.
because of him. Yeah.
So, and I just love Hermes's bureaucracy to get around everything. It's just like this loop of nonsense, right? Just constantly going around and around. It's like, this is the problem. Let's get a committee to solve the problem. Then it turns out the committee is the reason the problem exists in the first place, and it just circles around. And the epitome of what his job is. So, any case, they figure this out. Leela tells him like, nah, I think it's time you got out because you're being disrespectful to everybody. And Fry is kind of a jerk, right? He's being a jerk in this episode to everybody.
He's a big dummy. I think.
Yeah.
No, he's not being a jerk on purpose. It's just he's being a dummy.
Right. Well, he doesn't really think about other people, right? This
Yeah,
is the
inconsiderate.
epitome
There we
of
go.
Fry from the past, right? He's very inconsiderate when it comes to this kind of stuff. And yeah, we get into this whole thing. He's
Well,
watching TV.
I have a note here first of a joke that I like
Sure.
because they all go like, "Hey, Professor, Fry's being an issue." He's like, "Oh, Fry's fine."
Yes.
And he's like, now, has anyone seen my
mummy.
my mummy, like the Egyptian mummy,
Right.
the Egyptian mummy?" And then Fry comes in chewing on some. "Oh, Professor, oh, this is great jerky. What? I was going to eat that mummy. Fry has got to go."
Yes.
So now Professor's on board now to get rid of him.
Yeah, because originally, of course, he was like, "No, he's family. He's not hurting anybody." And then, yes, I also had that written down, the mummy jerky, which is like,
Mummy jerky.
it's so funny because like that was the turning point, right? He's like, "Now this alien mummy I was going to eat is now being eaten by Fry. He's got to go." Right now, of course, this is when we also go. Fry's watching TV. He's watching a introduction of the first time. Like we're watching this show. However, before I get into this,
Yes.
I want to have this little joke. I think this is pretty funny, even because it's way ahead of its time, just like a lot of jokes in the show. Fry is flipping through channels on the TV, and he says something along the lines of like 40,000 channels, only like 130 of them are good. So he's actually tending to the like going through every single channel, but he doesn't care about the actual show. He wants to know like how many are actually worth his time. But he's decided to waste his time looking for that.
It's what you did when you were kind of bored and had nothing to do. It's like, oh, let's just flip through the TV to see if anything's good on. Okay, that's good. I might come back to that if nothing else is better
but he
on.
keeps on,
okay,
like,
well, that was
like,
also pretty good. Superheroes. Oh, I love that. Well, let's keep going. Oh, Food Network. They're cooking pasta. I don't really care. Kind of thing.
So 40.
We've all done that. We
have done this, but I find that it's only Fry, because it's Fry. He won't find the show that he's like, oh, I'll watch this. No, he's like, what else is on? Like, I want to see what else is good, right? But he counts 40,000, 130 are good. So I think that's just a nice little nugget of gold that's kind of like surpassed in a lot of these things. But anyway, now to the main thing, of course, and this is like a bit of a nice theme for our episode as well. All My Circuits, first time ever seeing Calculon and All My Circuits for the first time. So I have to ask you, when you first saw this, and of course, like over time, we've grown up watching the show, and it's Calculon's been a huge like
He's
secondary
the
character,
world's greatest acting robot ever.
and he's been around for years, almost 1,000 years himself, and he's just like whatever, but not always acting, obviously. But he in this played by Maurice LaMarche, right?
Maurice LaMarche, yep.
He's funny in himself because he's so over dramatic. But what do you think about like this All My Circuits, the robot soap opera? What do you think of this show?
Well, you got to draw context only from this episode because there's so much more to All My Circuits and stuff like that. At one point, Bender becomes part of the show. Calculon dies, and they replace him with a worse Calculon. He has to do his. He has to come back
Right.
as a different person. He disguises himself as a different person to try and get recasted for his role.
As Calculon,
There's a lot.
even though he's
as
actually
Calculon,
Calculon, right?
yeah. And there's lots to it. And of course, there's his line of "my ungodly acting talent." I think they kind of played up that he's supposed to be Star Trek. James Kirk, the actor who plays Jim Kirk.
William Shatner.
William Shatner, because William Shatner is an over actor, and people love and hate him for that. Yeah. So I think they kind of got inspiration from this, but he's a robot and it's a soap opera.
That's right.
I love it.
And the soap operas are famous for being like twisty and turny for every single thing, right? Like everything is dramatic, so he has to be dramatic for every single scene.
Exactly. Growing up, my mom watched a couple of these things. Like All My Children, I think was also like All My Circuits is kind of the same.
That's where it comes from. Yeah.
And my mom used to watch that. I don't know if she still watches, but I always used to make fun of the show because they were always inside in a very, very simple setting. But it was always dark. So I always called them inside shows because they were dark and always inside. And my mom didn't like that. But these ones are funny to me because they're literally the exact same kind of thing. It's a paint by numbers thing, like who's that in the bushes? My evil stepbrother.
Who I thought was dead for 15 years.
Yeah.
And oh my God, you come back and it turns out there was another personality all along. Yes, it's
exactly. I love
every twist that could ever happen is this thing, right? Yes, this is the show. But that's what
they did it on Friends with Joey. They do it on this one, and it's always in the background. I love it. Yes, but just from what we see on this episode, it's fun because it's the first time you see a Calculon and like, oh, who's that? That's Calculon. He's the world's greatest acting robot. And you see all the characters and stuff. And oh, who's that? Oh, that's a human character. You know, he does human stuff, falls in love.
And can I just I just want to bring up that's something I thought of as well when I had in my notes for it.
Only time you ever see this guy.
Well, you see him kind of briefly, right? But yes, Bender calls him like, oh, he's just the human character. He lives, he loves, he learns, all this stuff, human stuff. And Fry's like, oh, that sounds boring. So it's interesting because that is actually the epitome of a token character, which is kind of like humans have become in the show have become the token thing. It's not just like about one type of person being put into a show that is like the token show or the token character in the show. It's now humanity. Humanity is the token character. So it's funny that Bender like talks about him with like such reverence. He's like, oh, he's just the token human. Who cares? And like, that's what it is. And you're right. That's the only time we ever really hear him speak. And yeah, and he works in their office, I guess. Like he's just a random character. Whatever, never even really know his name, but he's good enough friends with Calculon that he's the best man for his wedding, at least in his.
So he does show up again.
Yeah, but that's about it. He just kind of pops up here and there. He doesn't speak much, right? He's like Calculon's back. Now, of course, while Fry's watching the show, we get into the whole thing with them wanting to get him to leave and. Fry's like, nah, I'm not going to go anywhere. Like, this is my home is fine. And Bender was going to tell him, then decides like, oh, All My Circuits. He sits with them, and then they turn out to both love being,
they're now instant fans of All My Circuits.
Right.
I do want to say
mm-hmm.
one thing about it because during the time that they're watching All My Circuits, you see Calculon propose to I can't remember her name. In the thing, Robotica or something like that.
Yeah.
His wife in the show or something like that.
The Ring. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, the Ring. The thing is like, oh, how'd you know that you're metric? I've always known. And for you, I'm willing to convert. Which to me means that there's a robotic religion of metric versus imperial.
Right.
Now, later on in the series, they actually do have a robot religion, but it's just basically Christianity. And there's a
Robotology.
robot
Yeah,
preacher, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
robotology. But there's
Robotology.
also another thing I will say about the show being super inclusive. In the show, there's a religion called atheismo or something like that, or is that the god? I can't remember. Which is
The
basically
great
all
atheism. That's
religions,
yeah,
only one god or
yeah.
more or fewer. So it has all gods, one god,
Right.
or no gods. It's
It's
everything. I love it.
yes, it's like the religious pantheon. So it's like
Exactly.
every single religion that's connected to this, and the priest is kind of not even really a priest, but he's like he has every get up, part of a get up from every single religious leader, and he's wearing everything. And then yeah, he says like, oh, my children that are maybe my children, maybe not, to all gods or fewer or none. Like
Yeah,
it's
or
just like
more or
you're covering
fewer.
all bases.
I
It's
love it.
it is amazing for that. Yeah, it is. But that is what Futurama has, right? Because in the future of this universe, it's become so inclusive. Everything is just like everything's touched, right? We just have to make sure we include everything.
Yeah.
This is why they have in later episodes we'll find like that the parade day
Oh
parade,
God, I
right?
love
Which is the
Parade
whole
Day.
thing, right? So in any case, we'll get onto that when the time comes. But
But yeah, just the fact that he proposes to her with a metric ring, I just find that hilarious.
yes, and I love that little thing because of course that's for robots, right? Robots deal
Yeah,
with math and then like robotics of engineering and everything.
screws,
So
and
like
it was a
right,
nut. He
it's like, oh my
screwed a
god,
nut onto her finger.
right? Like, oh,
Yeah,
you're a metric, not imperial. It's like, oh, how did you know? It's like I've always known,
I've always known.
and it's
Yeah,
so
it's
oh, it's so wonderfully dramatic. I love it too. Yeah, no,
uh,
that's a good point. There's also
so
the
then they
mention.
then they kick Fry out after this, and he's
Yes,
like, "Why is the TV getting small?" They kick him out, and they have to like go find your own
they
place.
throw. So this is I actually wanted to watch this because I wanted to see if this was the case. It's not, unfortunately. So it's kind of a thrown away gag. But when they toss him out, they toss both of them out because they picked them out on the sofa. They throw them out with the sofa, and then Hermes says, "We'll bill you for the couch." So I thought that sofa was actually going to be in future episodes. So I'm willing to see whether or not it's the same color of the chair because that's kind of like another continuity thing that they may have paid attention to. So they took the sofa. The thing
They're
is,
smart enough that they would have. They're constant
right,
whatever the word is. They're pretty
continuity.
good at
Yeah, the
continuity. Thank
canons.
you.
Yeah,
Sorry, geez, you just
yeah,
said it too. Continuity is like it's not too hard to do that, especially when you're smart writers like they were back then.
of course,
There's clever, and then there's trying too hard, and they
exactly.
were clever back then.
They were very clever back then, and so I think that the canon of that sofa, which is such a weird thing for me to pick up on. I'm just like I was watching that, I was like, I wonder if they use that sofa, but when they move into their apartment, which we'll talk about it a little bit anyway, but the with the apartment they end up in, the sofa in that is not theirs, obviously, because it
Different.
belonged to
Okay.
the previous person. So I don't know though in future episodes with their apartment, I'll take a look for it.
Yeah, it's
Does
something we need
that
to look
sofa
at. You,
show up?
you
Yeah,
don't see it too often though.
right. Because they do
So,
replace
oh
the
yeah.
sofa in the lounge area of the building. So we'll see.
So they kick
Yeah,
Fry out,
yeah,
and then they go to a diner, a future diner,
yeah.
and
This is the first time we've heard
Fry's kind of being
Ben,
like, "Oh, sad." Stuff like that.
and
I get it why
first
they
time
kicked me out. Yes,
Bender
it's Bender.
has been. We find out his fuel is actually alcohol. Also, the first time mentioning this as well. And why he smokes cigars is because he thinks they're
Because
cool,
he looks cool.
right? So that's the only reason. But the alcohol, this will be brought up later in the episode, of course, is the he needs this
Fuel
alcohol
source.
to fuel him, right? So yes, Fry's all sad. He doesn't want his little whatever his little jellyfish thing that
Amoeba.
he was eating is amoeba. So he's like,
Yeah.
nah, you can eat it or whatever, but couldn't do it. Any case, they decide like, or Bender says like, oh, you know what, just move in with me.
Stay with me.
Yeah, I've got a place. You can come join me. He's like, oh my God, I've never had like a robot roommate. So that'd be really cool. Let's go check it out. Never seen an apartment for a robot. And what's his apartment seem like?
It was a perfect place for robots who don't need to sleep, lie down, sit, do anything of the sort other than just
No,
to stand there and recharge.
it's
It's like
literally
it's
like,
basically the size of a closet.
it is a
Broom,
closet,
not even a
right?
broom closet.
Yeah, it's a,
It
what
was
is it?
like
Two cubic,
three.
2 or 3 cubic feet or something, right? He says in the
Yeah,
episode because he's like,
yeah.
we only take up like 2 of them. Like we have a whole other room for like another half person. So yes, that's Bender's thoughts, right? So he literally lives in like an apartment that's a closet, and
Basically a door by a door would be the best way to say it. A door, the width of a door by the width of a door, by the height of a door.
maybe even a bit smaller because I know that Fry can't he can't stretch his legs all the way out. He has to like curl
No,
them up
well,
when he
yeah,
sits
a
down
door's
against the
only
door.
like 3 feet across, or like 2.5 feet across if you look at a door.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure if it's like, oh, okay, sure. All right, whatever the case. Point is, it's
Roughly.
a very small place for two things, and one thing
And
doesn't.
you can't sit down, you can't really lie
Right.
down.
So Fry, of course, he's super uncomfortable, but he doesn't want to upset Bender, right? Because Bender seems to love him being there. He says something along the lines of like, "I really want to, I really wanted a pet." So he calls like again tokenized human, right? So he really wants to have Fry be part of his life there. What do you
My
think
favorite
of?
thing about that is
Go for it.
when he's
Yeah.
like, okay, well, here, you seen the place, time to go to bed. Good night. And then he just,
Mm.
Bender goes to sleep, and then he does the thing that Bender has done since this, kill all
humans, which is
must
another big
kill
continuity
all
thing. Yeah.
humans. And then Fry wakes up like, Bender, he's like, wait, what? You're having a funny dream. Oh, I was? All right, whatever, back to sleep. And then, hey, sexy lady.
Sexy lady. Yeah, want to
kill all humans?
And he's like, yeah, I was having a dream and I think you were in it.
Right.
So actually, I wanted to ask you that right before he kind of goes to sleep for it. I was going to ask, do you think Bender's being sarcastic, or is he just being like, he's kind of being like a robot? So he walks in with Fry, and Fry comes in, he's like, here, let me show you around. And he says, over there's the kitchen, over there's like the breakfast nook, over here is where you'll be staying. Any questions? And then he like goes to sleep, right? So I'm wondering, do you think Bender's being like sarcastic in the situation, or is he actually thinking like, this is that? What do you think?
I think he's just doing the thing that, like, whenever you show someone your house, right? Like, over here
Okay.
is the kitchen area, here's the living room, and there's that and stuff like that. And then the person usually asks, "Hey, where's the bathroom?" Because they have to go or something
Right.
like that. So I think it's just a general kind of thing, what like just a person would do it whenever they're showing a friend their new house or something like that.
So he's kind of
So
just going
that's
through
what
the
we did. Yeah,
motions. He's just going
yeah,
through the
exactly.
motions.
He's going through
Okay.
the motions.
So he's not
It's
actually being sarcastic or mean. He's just
I
doing
wouldn't
it
be
because that's what's
sarcastic.
normal. Yeah.
Yeah, just doing a thing that you do whenever you show someone, like, hey, this is the, like when Andrew came and visited me, a friend of ours came and visited me. I'm like, hey, this is the kitchen, this is my
Right.
my
And you live in a nice little hallway.
Yeah, here's the nice hallway. Right? Yeah. Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
And like like everyone knows what a kitchen is. Everyone knows what a bathroom is. It's just kind of like, look at the place I live in.
Right.
So
be
that's
appreciated of my home, right? Be appreciative.
exactly.
Of my home,
That's
right?
pretty much it. I
Yeah.
don't see Bender being sarcastic there. I just see it as a thing that everyone does when they show someone a house or a place.
Okay. So he's just going through it. Okay, that's fair. Because when I thought about that, I was like, well, his voice doesn't really change to be sarcastic, and
Yeah,
like,
and John DiMaggio does a good sarcastic voice.
Does, and the joke doesn't really have any punchline afterwards, because then he kind of just drifts off to sleep, kind of thing, right? So, anyways, afterwards, of course, it's been like a week. Fry's like, Fry and Bender have been living together. Bender's all chipper. Leela notices that he's chipper, but Fry seems to be kind of,
tired,
what's the
at a
word?
different angle.
Right. He's just uncomfortable, right, is the main thing. So Leela decides to help them look for a new apartment, because obviously it just doesn't work for Fry. And they do a wonderful montage of looking for these apartments. And I wanted to get your opinions on these, but yeah, go ahead.
Before that, though, basically, like, Leela's like, you're not doing very well, Fry. We need to find you a place. He's like, nah, I don't want to make Bender feel sad or anything. And then Bender comes by and is like, hey guys, what's going on? Well, I'm about to find a new place, Bender. Bye.
Right. He's like, oh, but it's one of those things. I feel bad doing it, right? And then he's like, hey, I bought this thing for us to have in our apartment. He's like, ha. By the way, I'm moving out. He just cuts him off. Yeah, exactly. He's just like, actually,
I love the. Yeah.
That is a good joke, actually. Yeah,
because we don't get to see Bender be too positively pleasant to people very often. Usually he's a jackass, which is why people love him. But like whenever he is pleasant, it's very funny. And like
and
not really
kind
his
of take
character.
advantage of that too, right?
Yeah.
Like especially when he joins robotology, right? He becomes like that overly unbearable huggy person or whatever. Anyway, so
becomes not Bender, yeah. And then so now the montage of apartment hunting, yeah.
So the first one we touch on is the underwater apartment. So first of all, before we get into like the scene, what's your opinion of this kind of apartment? Did you like the look of it from like
the underwater? No, I would never live underwater.
You would never do it, huh? I can't help but think I would. I kind of like that idea, as long as the giant squid doesn't show up. But I love the idea of it being underwater.
There's a difference between living underwater, like maybe like within a few hundred meters from like the the shore or something like that. But like say like in the middle of the ocean, like say like 100 kilometers away from Vancouver Island. So like you're in the Pacific Ocean
Right.
and you're down there. It's basically more or less, well, it's not, it's like you being on the moon. You're in an alien environment. You don't survive outside that capsule. It would take
Right.
forever for someone to come help you if you had any issues or something like that you needed
Well,
help.
actually, that's interesting because we don't actually know how far deep this
It
apartment
was it would
is,
be
right?
it would be off New York coast. I would assume,
I
right?
guess so, yeah. But of course, in the future, it doesn't really matter. You can get a ship back and forth. So I'm sure that they can
Yeah,
figure out
exactly.
how to save it.
I still would never do it. It's like
Fair
current day.
enough.
Maybe
Right.
in the future when we have to, for whatever
Right.
reason,
If we ever have
aliens.
underwater cities or something. But I
Yeah.
don't know. I love the idea of like you can wake up, you can like see fish and everything. Instead of like birds, you'll see
Well, there's also
fish.
the pressure down there too, right? Like you have to decompress yourself in order to come back
Well,
up from
again,
groceries.
it depends on it depends on how deep it is, right? But you're right. There's some pressure to it, and of course, you're going to feel different underwater. It's going to be damp. It's going to be all these things, and that's
Yeah,
something that it
exactly.
plays
Yeah.
on, right? There's like dripping and all this kind of stuff in the apartment. Anyway,
Right, and the guy that shows him is there was
the
Sal from
landlord,
the,
yeah,
the the second episode,
yeah,
who's a white person and sounds like I don't know. He's just a very gruff person.
yeah.
John
Hey
DiMaggio
man,
does the
what's up? Yeah,
exact same voice for this guy.
yeah.
So it's like they're
I gotta
brothers
go
or something.
change a
But they
light bulb. And he has to like go
yeah.
kill the squid with a knife in his teeth.
And
Yeah,
then he shows up again in another episode or two. But like
hmm.
if they use Sal, not this guy.
Right. Sal becomes like the new like hardworking, you know, truck stop type of guy. He does all the
Yeah, it's
manual labor
he's a
jobs.
construction worker.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's that character, right? He always will be. Okay, cool. So that was the underwater apartment. Then it moves on, of course, and then I'm glad that you helped me with this. So this is the famous painting apartment, of course, which is called Crazy Stairs. And Crazy Stairs was created by what was the name again?
MC Flesher.
Fleischer. And
It's called relativity.
Relativity. Sorry, I think some
Relativity
people
is
called it Crazy Stairs as like a side name of it. But yeah, sure.
well, its official name is Relativity by MC Escher, made in 1953.
Perfect. Now
Lithograph.
we get into this we get into this
All right.
scene, and the three of them, because Leela's helping them obviously, right? So you have Leela, Bender, and Fry, and the trio, and then the landlord of this place. And they're like, oh, this looks okay, but I'm not sure we want to, what does it say? I don't want to pay for a dimension we might not use. And then Bender has a pretty good bit where he like falls down the stairs, and then he pops up all over the place of it. If you see this painting, you'll understand it kind of popping around there. So what do you think of this apartment? Would you live
I
in
would
this
never live in a
place?
place. No, well, especially if you can
Where's the
fall pretty
bathroom?
much
Yeah,
infinitely.
right.
Yeah, no, and like you definitely would have nice calves and thighs though from going up and down the stairs.
Right, right. I think it'd be kind of funny. Maybe I'd like hang out there once in a while, but I probably don't want to live in a place like this. But who knows? It seems like an
Yeah,
interesting idea. But it's a fun little joke. Yeah.
I tried to draw this for the episode title card, and it was just going to take me too long. And I was like, no.
I think the title card you got was perfect. So don't
Oh
worry
yeah,
about
I
that.
like I
Yeah.
like it too. But the thing was,
Yeah.
like, I wanted to use this one because it's cool and unique. But it just got too like just by the time I got to the second or third staircase, I was like,
I'm
nah,
out.
this is already taking me half an
That's
hour to do each
probably
stair.
what
I'm done.
Fry and Bender thought when they were there. Like got the third staircase, like I'm out. I'm done. Yeah.
Well, if you look at the shot, they only have the one background, right? They don't do any camera
Right.
moves or anything. They might
Right.
zoom in and zoom out, but it's the same background, so they don't have to do any
It's
extra
literally
crap for it.
it's just Bender changing like positions
Well,
where he
yeah,
falls, right?
it's
Yeah.
a very mathematic background. A lot of
I love
stairs,
it.
angles. For people who draw and stuff like that,
Yeah.
perspective is such a annoying thing to draw unless you're a god at it.
Right.
Which props to you if you are.
Totally.
But yeah, doing backgrounds and stuff like that. If you had to do like 5 shots, I would have been like, nah, I'm good. I don't want to
Yeah.
draw the
No
background.
way. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, unless
Now,
it's a 3D background, which is different.
of course.
Which at this time it would not have been because 1999 or 2000.
Right. Now at the time here as well. So we go to our final one of the montage, and this one is classified as like suspiciously beautiful apartments, right? And
Yeah.
they're all inside. And you and I can agree. You look into this picture of this apartment, of everything you see, like the fireplace and the couches and the window, and it's a beautiful view, everything. Excuse me. And they say to him like, I give up. What is it? And then it's like, well, technically we're in
New Jersey.
which again, because you and I have talked about this before. You and I come from Canada. We're on the western side of Canada, not even eastern. So for us, this joke of like the New York versus New Jersey type of rivalry that they've always had going on because they're neighboring cities. Like we see this in a whole bunch of other shows, right? Like How I Met Your Mother did this. I think Friends did this. Yeah, a whole bunch of these places, right? Anything that would set
New York, yeah.
Anything in New York, they always take a jab at New Jersey.
Mad About You.
Sure.
Yeah.
Any of these
any
New York City show, they'll make a joke about sitcom. They'll make a joke about New Jersey. So of course they do it in Futurama too, because it's in New York. And it's like we're technically in New Jersey. And then the next scene right after that is them sitting at the table looking depressed and be like, not a single livable place for us to live. And it's such a genius move. I love that. It's just so funny to see them like, nah, beautiful apartment, all this stuff. You're in New Jersey. Nope. It's even worse than the other ones.
I think the equivalent of that in Canada is like Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan's kind of our joke province.
It's the joke province. So
maybe it's just to us Westerners. I don't know about the Easterners, but us Westerners, whenever we make fun of a province, it's usually Saskatchewan.
When you make fun of things in Canada, and for those non-Canadians who might be listening, right? Anytime you go here, if you hear people talk about Saskatchewan, that's usually going to be within a joke. But the people from Saskatchewan, it's because they're like the hardworking, typically the small town type of people, because that's what Saskatchewan is. It's the prairie farm.
There's only like
agricultural,
like 1.5 million or something that live in there.
Probably, right?
I don't know.
It's a small amount of people. But I will always say this: it's not necessarily Saskatchewan that's the joke province. It's actually more Manitoba, because Manitoba never really gets talked about, right?
No one remembers Manitoba.
Right. The only city, if you can call it that, the only real city that you can have from Manitoba that people even know is Winnipeg. So I think Winnipeg,
which Winnie the Pooh, if everyone knows, Winnie the Pooh came from there. The idea came from there, right?
The name of it, right? Yeah.
Winnipeg, Winnie the Pooh.
But yeah, then you have all these other ones. But this is, of course, the rivalry of New Jersey and New York City.
Yeah.
So in any case,
sorry, long tangent.
Canada,
make fun of Saskatchewan. Right. You'll be loved.
That's exactly it. Yeah, that's how you blend in, Americans. Remember that. So
make
when
fun
you
of how flat it is.
Go from there. Exactly. You go through here, and yeah, they're back in the lab, or not the lab. Sorry, in the what do you want to call that? Just the TV room,
lounge room
of the building. And they're overhearing Professor talking to his. This is something I just thought of as well. As the professor's talking on the phone, so unfortunately one of his colleagues and his colleague's wife has been torn to shreds. But this is the first time the professor. This is the first time we've ever heard the professor utter like something about news. So I think this is the beginning of everybody saying like good news, everyone, because he says bad news, guys, or bad news, people, that my colleague so-and-so has died. And yeah, albeit horribly, followed with Leela saying like, is his apartment rent controlled? Because now they can find a new apartment, right? Like this just works really well in the story. It shows you how much these characters actually care about other people, right? But it also shows that Leela is also kind of inconsiderate, right?
Fry, very pragmatic.
Bender, and then now Leela. Yeah, it's just like, oh, I'm sorry, not even that. Apartment rent controlled? Can we see it? Right, and then we fast forward to. First time seeing the old lady. I actually can't recall. Does she have a name?
I think so, but she's like your whatchamacallit. She's your stereotypical like old cat lady who always has a robe on. Yeah, without the cats. I think she does have a cat or two in an episode or something like that. But yeah, she has that old lady cackle crest. So
right.
Yeah, whatchamacallit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't care what you're doing in here with the old man, the one-eyed lady, or the Chinese girl. But yeah, you have to do that. She's funny. I think that she has some really good one-liners because she shows up periodically here and there. Sometimes she's connected to the Planet Express crew. Sometimes she's not. She's just kind of part of it there. So anyway, we see this.
Yeah, she's played by Tress MacNeille, and Tress MacNeille can do that voice in her sleep
beautifully. Yeah, she's wonderful for those voices. Can't wait to see more of her characters come up as well because she does a lot of them. But here we go into seeing this apartment. So what do you think of the apartment that they get to move into?
Oh, I'd love to live in a place like that. I don't think it ever shows a bedroom though. Like it's a nice open up place.
Right. Yeah, you
with a
only see the
giant TV.
living room, giant TV, a bunch of little sculptures and toys that the guy
Yeah.
who lived there collected over the years. I think the kitchen's in the background because it's like an open kitchen, and there's like a
Yeah.
staircase to the loft. So it is actually quite a nice place. Now, here's a trick for you. Do you know when they are, if you can remember, do you remember when they're getting settled in there, Bender and Fry? And there's music that starts playing and they start like destroying all the stuff and like
Yeah.
making it their own. Do you know where that music comes from?
It's probably from an older TV show, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I actually had to look this up myself because I wondered what that
Um,
was. Want to take a guess?
Three's Company?
No, good guess. Not Three's Company. It's The Odd Couple.
Two Men and a Baby. Oh, The Odd Couple.
Two Men
I
and a
knew it was
Baby's a
something to
movie.
do.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Sorry.
The Odd Couple. Yeah.
The Odd Couple.
Yeah. Because it's like about two people who are kind of like opposites moving in together and they have to live together this way, right? So this is The Odd
Which would
Couple.
make sense for this because one of them's a robot and the other one's not a robot.
Opposites.
Controversial.
Yeah. So, in any case, that's like that whole little montage of them destroying stuff, making it their own, becoming their own thing. Yeah, and it seems like this is like the key thing. They're going to be living in this apartment. The TV is massive. Everybody loves it, and
Wall size. It's like a wall size.
Right, like a giant, massive TV, right? And so they're going to have a nice housewarming party for everybody to show up, right? So who shows up at this party for their apartment? Who's all there?
Pretty much everyone from the Planet Express. You forgot to mention one thing though. When they were decorating and stuff like that,
Yeah.
Bender has a picture of Calculon that was made to another fan, but he crossed out the fan's name and then put Bender in his own handwriting.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah, he's a huge Calculon fan.
It shows that he's actually been a fan of all my circuits and Calculon for a long time, right? So that's true. That's right. That's a bit of continuity.
Okay, sorry.
Too. Yeah. No, that's okay.
Let's just back to who shows up. I do this all the time. I apologize if I go off on tangents and stuff like that, but that's me. So suck it. Yeah, sorry. So the people who show up are everyone from Planet Express. You got Amy, who. Wait, hold on. Maybe I should do this in order.
Do an order. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you remember? Yeah.
Crap. I think Zoidberg comes in. Hermes
and Zoidberg.
Hermes and Zoidberg.
Yeah.
And then the professor comes in and he's like, "Hey, I got you a mummy jerky," and he says like it's some important Pharaoh the Third,
65 million years ago. Yeah, teriyaki flavored.
Yeah, exactly. Teriyaki style.
Yeah.
Leela comes in with a little fruit plant tree, which has little bananas, some watermelon, and some little apples and stuff like that. And Fry's like, "Oh, cool, thanks." And he peels the little tiny banana, throws the banana peel down, eats the banana. Oh, so good. And then
Amy comes in, right?
And then Amy comes in and goes, "Hi, Fry," and then she's a klutz.
Yeah.
So she slips and falls on the little tiny banana peel.
Nice little sight gag there, right? Like an old style sight gag, but it's just made so much better with the smell.
Oh crap! Yeah, sorry. Then it was the professor. Sorry, the professor came in afterwards, stepping on Amy.
That's right.
She's like, because he's like, "Hi, Amy." As she's on the ground, she's like, "Hi," and then professor steps on her.
Right. And then he gives them the emperor of the whatever star system, the 65 million years, teriyaki flavored. And says like, "This is for you." Yes, so they're all there. So the Planet Express crew, I guess, they've all been there. I guess they had all brought food, so maybe this was like a potluck or something. Well, I guess if you do a housewarming party, people are going to bring stuff to share, right? So they have
exactly.
Like the jerky or the fruit plant, I think. And then Zoidberg has this little one-off with Hermes, and it shows like your little problematic relationship with those two for the very beginning as well. But Zoidberg brings in these little lobster claws.
I guess the equivalent of this would be like crab cakes.
Sure,
but they're in the shape of claws though.
Right, and Hermes says like, "Oh yeah, these are actually quite delicious," and he's like, "Thank you, I made them myself." And like Hermes is like, "Oh god, no more." So that was a nice little joke there. But of course, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. There's actually an issue going on here. So what is the main issue that happens during their little housewarming? Because they wanted to get together to watch All My Circuits. So
it was the wedding scene, which is an important thing, right? And you're about to find out that Calculon's brother or something like that was going to come and stop the wedding. But then Bender previously had drank all the beer, and so he's like, "I need to go out and go for beer." So he leaves, and then start watching, and then the big reveal, to reiterate, I was going to say, and then Bender walks in, and the TV turns to stack. This is kind of what happened with radio waves and stuff like that. I don't know if this ever happened to you. I think it happened very,
Yeah,
very briefly, like early on in my life. If
with
you had like
bad
the
weather.
microwave on,
Yeah.
bad
Oh,
weather. I
okay,
think if you had the
sure. Yeah.
microwave on, your
Remember the
TV
weather.
would get like a little staticky or something like that. And this is before cable, I guess I would say. So this is all radio waves, which again kind of is not quite. It's at the tail end of the era of like early 2000s when like radio waves were kind of being
Yeah.
replaced with cable and stuff
Well,
like
I
that.
think Leela mentions like because okay, so thank you for saying that. So it comes in, it turns out Bender is the reason creating the static.
Yes,
Right.
yeah,
He's the
he's
reason
creating
that the
static.
TV. So he's like, he gets angry and he leaves, and the TV comes back, and then Fry's like, "Oh, hey, come back, it's okay." And then he comes back and it goes back again, and then the old cat
They do that a
lady
couple
girl comes
times.
back. Yeah, she comes with him. It's like everybody's having problems with their TVs on this floor. What's going on? And then it turns out actually this is a pretty funny. I like this joke because it kind of goes on a little too long, but they all moan about it. So the cat lady has like this thing that's like, this will find the kajigger. That's the reason for this. And so she's like, beep, 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 and she goes, points to Bender, beep, 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 beep,
It's
beep,
like,
beep,
yeah,
points
it's like a
away,
metal
beep,
detector, but for the waves.
beep, 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 beep. She's like, just going back and forth. So anyway, she finally figures it out. Yeah.
It's kind of like whenever an old person uses technology, they're always very
Right.
slow at it, right?
And they're all just like, oh my God, just like it's
It's
Bender,
obviously
obviously
Bender.
So she figures it out,
So
and they're all like,
his
whatever.
antenna is affecting the
Yes.
reception of the TVs and stuff.
And Leela states in here, it's like, because Bender says like, I never had a problem with my old TV, but then again, I don't know where Bender would have had a TV in his closet. But in any case, it never affected his old TV. And then Leela says like, oh, that's because you had cable. This is satellite, which is satellite
Oh
at
yeah,
the
okay.
time was becoming more prominent. And this is, I did have satellite TV when I was a kid, and if you had bad reception, which was a common thing, based on weather or just bad
Satellite wasn't
bad.
turned the right way.
Exactly.
Bad angle.
You would have nothing. Exactly. So you wouldn't have static, but you would have like just a blank screen and it just wouldn't show up, which was unfortunate. So this is
Oh,
kind of
especially if you're watching something important, like say like a hockey game or something.
right.
Yeah.
Or if you're watching a soap opera where somebody is trying to give you their big secret,
Big reveal.
Right? It's a big thing. So any case, everybody figures out it's Bender, obviously, and the antenna is the problem, not the robot, just the antenna on his head, right? But of course, the antenna to Bender is analogous to, a special part, right? A special part of any male robot. This is like the key, right? So Bender's like, nah, I'm not going to get rid of my antenna. Like this is who I am.
It's little Bender. You can't tell me to do that.
Right. So he's like, come on, Fry, we can go back to this one. Apparently they had another apartment that they looked at, which was about the sewers, which is, if I'm not mistaken, the first time that sewer mutants have been mentioned in the show.
Yes.
Is that correct? Even when they went,
I believe so. Yeah.
Even when they went to Old New York, were there mutants in this? Maybe there was actually.
I think you did see the 3-armed man.
Yes.
in like the sewer grate or something like that, but it was like for like a little brief thing, like it's just like, oh look, there's weird people down here.
Right.
So I think they kind of like, oh hey, that was cool. Let's do something with that, which they probably turned into the sewer mutants.
Right. And then this is like the first time of the mentioning of it with Bender and all that stuff. Any case, Fry, of course, he says, you know what, I actually kind of like this place. I don't want to leave. Is there a way that you can go and I can stay? We can be okay. And Bender does, right? So he heads up back to his old apartment and he's gonna drink. Then he decides not to, and this is like the opposite for like with people, right? When they're depressed, people tend to go to the bottle if they have this kind of problem. Bender, as a robot, because he needs it to fuel his cells, decides not to drink. Therefore, he becomes sober, right? He becomes a sober robot, and he acts like a drunk guy, right? So, this is interesting because I guess there's a problematic thing when it comes with robots and their lack of alcohol intake, and they become like this. So what do you think about Futurama's take on sober robots? Do you think this is a good idea?
Oh, I love it. It's just making fun of like the person who has trouble, like right, like you said, instead of taking to the bottle, it's the opposite, but it has the same effect. They get like low power, like a robot would on low power, like a
Yeah.
drunk kind of thing. They don't work properly. I do love the fact that he gets a 5 o'clock rust.
Oh, right. His rust. Yeah. Look at that
Yeah,
5 o'clock rust. It's like, don't tell me what I can't drink.
Bender, just please take a drink before you get behind a
In a
wheel.
vehicle. Yeah. I don't tell you how not to drink something. Right? And then I love they have like another little montage thing. And of course, I've seen this in a few other things, and I can't recall exactly where it comes from. But he's walking down
The
the
original,
street,
yeah.
and it has like all this stuff that's like clearly no liquor whatsoever, no liquor license, public library, like what is
Like a
it like
public library, pub.
right public library. I think there's one that's like this 2 hour Bible study or something, water
I don't know what that
fountain,
was
like all
supposed to be.
these.
Yeah.
It's just stuff that you can't have liquor at, right? It's
Oh,
just like
okay.
kid stuff and all
Well,
this stuff because he's not
okay.
drinking, right? So he's just it in the original one, wherever it comes from, because I'm blanking on that now. Wherever the original one was, it's supposed to be all typical things that are sinful. So like bars, casinos, everything that's just
Oh,
like
okay. I thought it
that's
was
where it
always a
comes from.
play on words.
Yeah.
Because I thought
No,
like
no.
when you saw the public library, it showed pub
Pub,
first, which I
right.
thought was like, oh, he's going to a pub to drink. Oh no, it's a public
It's a public
library.
library to not drink.
Because
Yes, that's the key. So maybe there was a few puns in there, but it
The
wasn't
Simpsons did that multiple times too, which is
right.
Matt
Well,
Groening.
Groening's thing. So I think he either I think he borrowed that kind of thing from something because it was one of those. Right. Okay. So in the end, Bender having all these problems. So what does Leela do? She decides to
Neg Fry into like, hey, you need to make this make up with Bender and continue to be best friends rather than telling him to screw off and that you like this place over him. Don't choose a thing over your best friend.
right, even though your best friend is also a thing.
A
right?
thing.
But yeah, that's the key, right? So in this the theme of this episode, right, is of course being a better friend and looking out for your friend, right? Hence the term I roommate, right? Myself and the roommate. So yeah, Fry decides to be a better person. He says, you know what? That's cool, man. Like I'll live with you. Oh no, sorry. Bender will come to his place first, and then he decides to cut off his antenna, right? Because he wants to live with Fry more than he wants his antenna, but he's still sad because he doesn't want to be quote unquote half a robot, right? Because
would you cut off your antenna, Anthony, to come live with me?
Dear God, no. I don't care how much static you're getting, Mitchell. I will never do that. But in any case,
I would not do it for you either.
There you go.
Offense.
Glad. Good. I would hate for you to do that to yourself. And you know what? In the end, Fry comes to his senses and he says, you know what? This isn't right. This isn't right. Let's get your antenna back and I'll move back in with you. And there's a nice little joke with the police.
Yeah, they got the black the black police officer. You call that little thing an antenna?
Yeah.
Ha ha ha! Penis jokes. Ha ha ha!
Right. One of the first of many, right? And then they end back up. This time, of course, Fry has the fruit plant. So I guess now he has food. And he goes in and he says, like, oh, I just wish
there was a window.
This fruit plant could get some light because it's a plant. We need window. And he's like, oh, here you go. Bender all this time had a closet that had everything an apartment has. Closet. Yes, quote unquote closet, a window, a wonderful living room area. And actually, I was going to ask you about this. So, is this a closet for a robot, or is it the fact that Bender just never needed anything more than the closet spot that it turned into a?
I would call it more of a storage spot if I was thinking, because in this show, robots have personalities and stuff like that. Yeah, they might be programmed, but more or less they act just as humans. More or less, once you get to see other robots and stuff like that, blah 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 blah. But yeah, I would call it more of a storage space with a window.
So storage space that has a kitchen and all the utilities.
I don't think it showed a kitchen, did it?
But it has one in the future, we know, because we see this apartment again and again. It also has a bathroom with all the facilities of that as well. The bedroom, of course, everything. And of course, they move more stuff into it. But they have all these rooms. So is this not the actual apartment? And Bender just never bothered to go into it. He's just like, oh, this is perfect because it's, a cube. That's all he needs.
All right, well, I am looking at the imagery here just when he walks in. Whilst looking at it,
yeah,
in this closet, there's another closet.
Exactly. And that's the whole thing. And then later in the future of the series, of course, Bender sleeps with Fry like in the same room in another bed. And then there's another time they have different rooms. So I don't know. Continuity is a little iffy on the apartment, but
It's probably just a writing tool. But you also forgot, because it kind of has a all my circuits theme, where and the whole thing is that Bender is Calculon, and then Fry is the human, right?
right.
Because when Leela got them to kind of make up and stuff like that, it was playing all
Right.
my circuits, and for some
Yes.
reason the human was in the hospital, and it's just like, I'm sorry, Calculon, I didn't mean
Sorry, I
to do
treated
that.
you
And
so
Calculon's,
badly. He's like, it's okay.
yeah, sorry, I treat you.
You're
Yeah,
only
you're only
human.
human. And so they also, and then Fry and Bender repeat the lines, but in reverse, because Bender was like, sorry, Fry, for being so selfish. It's okay, Bender. After all, you're only human.
Yeah.
Even
And then
though it was
Leela's
Fry.
like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, Leela was like, you got it wrong.
You got it backwards. And he's like, oh, whatever.
Yeah. And then they end up at
They look
Bender's place.
confused at her. They're like, what's wrong? We made up. Yeah. They're like, oh, whatever. Good. Yes. And then, of course, that's where it ends, right? We go into it with Bender saying like, okay, if you want to sleep in the closet, go ahead, human, whatever. And here we go. I roommate. So overall, this is, I would say it wasn't as good as the previous couple in terms of like humor.
Yeah,
They
this
still had
was probably
calls,
the
but
low point one, yeah.
a lower one, but it's still a good one because it builds on the universe of it. Because from then on, literally to the very last episode of to date, that is the apartment that they live in. So this is a good continuity for it. Mind you, of course, they do change the layout of the apartment sometimes. So
yeah,
whatever. But I think it was overall still a solid episode there. So we'll get into our part here. What do you think about your best scene, funniest scene, MVP of the episode?
I don't really have one. MVP that like there's no standout character in my opinion to this one, so I'll just go with Bender being funny.
You've chosen Bender every single time.
I choose Bender, yeah, a lot. I'm gonna probably just say actually change it to Leela, because she's wearing her weird green jacket that I think she gets made fun of at some point later on.
And well, she has her jacket forever. Yeah, she has that jacket throughout the course of the whole series, right? So
yeah, it's like Fry has his jacket and white shirt, or his red jacket and white shirt. Who was he designed after again? James Dean? Fry. Yeah.
Maybe partly there, and Marty McFly from Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Or Michael J. Scott, Canadian, actually, famous Canadian.
I'm going to go favorite moment. Okay, sorry, you do your MVP.
Sorry, yeah, my MVP. Just if we're doing the MVP character, I'm going to go with the professor, just because I think he has.
Oh right, yeah, I was going to say
the best of the one lines of this episode, right? Like I love the. I was going to eat that mummy. I do like that scene, and I do like teriyaki style. So I'm going to go professor on this one. Okay, yeah. What's
professor
your,
was that one? Yeah.
What's your best moment, funniest moment? What works?
Oh, it's definitely when people are coming in with their stuff, and then Fry eats the little banana.
Is this best? Is this funniest? Is this funniest?
Yeah, my favorite. Other than the owl, let's face it, the owl stuff is hilarious.
Yeah, well, it's pretty.
Apparently, I like things getting hurt. So yeah, so when Amy comes in, slips on the little tiny banana peel, and he's like, "Hi," and then the professor steps on her.
I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna go with the funniest part is like the whoo sound with the owl trap.
Yeah.
And then that's my funniest one. The best scene I think is actually during that Odd Couple little montage when they're cleaning up the apartment,
putting everything in the trash,
everything like that.
In the trash.
And like all the little visual gags of everything they have, like the beautiful woman, and like Bender has also the computer girl or whatever, the computer program system that he has on there.
Basically, Fry put a poster of a hot girl with large breasts. Like a front view, and then Bender put up one with
or whatever.
Yeah, like an old what's it called? Video projector.
Like projector, right?
Where the projector reels acted like the boobs and nipple as well.
So that's all part of
suggestive.
Exactly. So I think that was really good. Plus, I really like the music of that. I thought that was I like that too.
I was going to say the music was good for that, but now that I knew they used it from the Odd Couple, it kind of takes it away a little bit. It's clever, but it's not original,
right? Yeah, I knew it wasn't original, so I just had to figure out where it came from, and I'm glad I did. Actually, one other thing as well, just before we finish up, I also want to mention this is the first episode we ever see never hear the word, but we hear Randy. We see Randy.
Randy,
You don't hear his name
then
yet,
one,
but this is
one
the
of his
first time you ever
neighbors.
see. Yeah, first time you see Randy as one of the neighbors who gets angry, and he does his like famous like Calculon's back kind of thing, right? Because shows up, but that's like the first time for that. So yeah, overall, I thought this episode was okay. It's pretty good. And then
The
for
least of the three we've watched so far.
exactly, and then of course when we get to future shows, and we'll see more of these characters, and yeah, it should be great. I'm really
Yeah,
looking.
it's nice. A few of the
forward to
characters
it.
they have do voices in this one, like Randy, and then the old cat lady or whatever she's called. They actually come back and become not
Like just
uh,
better
they're
or
there.
more characters,
They're a
right?
set
Yeah,
character. They don't use other random people or anything. These are set characters in this world that we see over and over again.
exactly. Like yeah, Sal, the cat lady, Randy, like they just become Calculon himself. They all become like just
Calculon, yeah.
prominent members of the show, and it's nice to see that. So yeah, man. Well, thank you again for joining me, and we'll see everybody, or talk about next episode with episode 4, Love's Labor's Lost in Space, and of course the first time seeing another very famous character.
Two good
Two very
characters.
famous characters who will be part of the show for a long, long time, if not forever. So thanks again, man, and hope to see you next time in the next episode.
We'll see you.
Bye.
Bye.